Hey, welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks, everyone. It's the 10th day of January 2019. We're about a third of the way through the month. January overall is not one of my favorite months. It's a long month. The holidays are over. We're in the dead of winter. I'll be glad when January is gone, to be honest. But we've got a long way to go, not only in January, but in winter. And despite the relative lack of cold and snow we've had so far this winter, the pattern has changed some, and there's lots and lots of winter to go. I still think February will be pretty cold. We'll talk about the longer range at the end of this video. In the meantime, we picked up another half an inch or so worth of snow at the Youngstown Warren Airport today on top of the 3.2 we registered yesterday, bringing us to a relatively paltry 3.8 for the month, all of which has come in the last 2 days. Average through the first 10 days of January is 5.3 inches. So, of course, we're running behind average for the month and the season. And when we compare this winter to last winter through today's date, last winter through January 10th, we had 26.8 inches of snow. This year, our seasonal tally is up to 15.6. All right, storm tracker radar this evening is quiet. We are seeing a definite downshift in the lake effect snow over the last couple of hours, so that's a good thing. Just some nuisance flurries out there this evening. One thing we'll keep an eye on overnight tonight is a Lake Huron band that may make the connection all the way to northwest PA. And if this comes to fruition, there could be some bonus additional small accumulations, mostly small, Crawford and Erie County, and perhaps into the eastern part of Mercer County as well. So over towards the I-79 corridor, might have to watch for just a little bit of residual accumulating snow overnight. I don't think it's going to be much. It's cold everywhere. Wind chills this evening are not far above 10 degrees. Could always be worse. Check out those cold-looking colors up in Canada, as you would expect. Here in the dead of winter, it's colder up to our north. All right, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, winter storm watches for a lot of the mid-Mississippi Valley, parts of the lower Ohio Valley as well. St. Louis is kind of going to be ground zero for this winter storm. They're going to get walloped with probably close to a foot worth of snow in and around the St. Louis area as we head towards the weekend. Notice those winter storm watches extend to the east over into Cincinnati, and I suspect you'll start to see some layers of winter weather advisories added on to this as we go through tonight and into the day tomorrow. That will probably include Dayton and Columbus and parts of southeast Ohio as well. In the meantime, a more benign day coming up on Friday with some clouds in the morning and then some brightening of the sky as we get into the afternoon. All right, this is our in-house model here, and I think it's just, it hasn't latched onto the right idea yet with the weekend snow. It keeps it really suppressed really far to the south. I think this is too far to the south on Saturday. I think by 11 a.m. The snow is more like up to here, and that would put it into parts of our viewing area as we get into the latter portions of the afternoon. This model has not one flake here with the weekend snow. I just don't think that's the right idea. But nonetheless, I do think that we will clear things out Sunday, and actually a fair amount of sunshine should break through by Sunday afternoon. So I do think it's going to snow around here. It's just a matter of how much and what will the impacts be. Much like I've been talking about this week, I don't think this is a big storm for us. Now, for our neighbors to the south, sure, maybe down towards Athens and Portsmouth and over towards Columbus, they'll probably get a few inches there. Cincinnati could see up to 5 or 6, and I'll show you the map in a second. But closer to home here, this is for the Youngstown Warren area, kind of the heart of our viewing area, kind of the middle portions of it, kind of the I-80 corridor, 224 corridor, over into parts of Mercer County as well. Model spread here, generally an average of an inch or two for that zone. And then we head down to East Liverpool. Notice the lines go a little bit higher. And I do think that the higher amounts will probably be focused in our southern viewing area. It'll be modestly higher. It's not like it's going to be a huge difference. But I think the better chances of seeing more than 2 inches, perhaps 2.5, at most 3-ish, will probably be down towards the southern end of Columbiana County, around and south of Route 30. Here's kind of the wide view of our snowfall map. Again, 6 to 12 in the purple, and I think St. Louis is closer to 12. Cincinnati probably a little closer to 6. Columbus is probably something like 2 to 4. Pittsburgh, probably kind of 1 to 3, maybe just south of there, 3 to 6. And when we zoom in on our local area, again, I'm not forecasting a big storm here, but coating to an inch for a lot of Trumbull and Mercer. Once you're south of I-80, I think 1 to 3 will be pretty common with this. It's not all the snow in the world, but as I oftentimes say in the winter when we're talking about snow forecasts, especially when the accumulations are pretty modest, don't let your guard down if you're going to be traveling Saturday evening. Especially, again, the farther south you are in our viewing area, things can be slick, and after dark especially, by half an inch to an inch, or 2 or 3 inches of snow. It could be real tricky out there for some places before Saturday is through. So, just because it isn't all the snow in the world doesn't mean there can't still be impacts. It's going to be a cold start to the weekend at 29 on Saturday. Best half of the weekend will be Sunday afternoon. I think the sun tries to break out and we try to sneak up to around the freezing mark Sunday afternoon. All right, let's take a deep dive into the longer range here. Before we get there, I wanted to just briefly touch base on the winter forecast. And one of the reasons why the winter hasn't exactly gone as planned thus far, I think the end game is still on track, and that means a colder February. But December and January have generally been warmer than we thought they would be, especially January, not only locally, but in a lot of the eastern U.S. And one of the reasons for this, when we look at the water temperature anomalies across the Pacific Ocean, this map isn't, what we expected it to look like by mid-January. If you remember from our winter forecast, one of the key drivers of the patterns across North America was going to be an El Nino and a kind of central Pacific-based El Nino. We call it a Modikai or a Modiki. I've heard it pronounced both ways. And that's usually characterized by the warmest temperature anomalies being kind of out here. What we have instead is kind of a basin-wide El Nino. Instead of a cool pocket right here, which you sometimes see with those central-based Ninos, you have just kind of a ribbon of warmer-than-average temperatures in the entire Central Pacific region. None of them are way above average. So it's a weak El Nino, it's kind of a basin-wide El Nino, and it's not really a low-end or a moderate central-based Nino like most of the modeling was suggesting by this time. So that's one of the reasons. There's a few other reasons, but that's kind of a simple reason why the weather patterns have not exactly behaved as planned through the first half of meteorological winter. All right, Thursday night, so we get a fresh update from the European long-range modeling here, and one thing you'll notice as we go through the progression here is that the pattern becomes more troughy as we go towards the end of January and into February. What I mean by that is, you see this, this is a piece of the polar vortex here, and if you trace all these lines, kind of digs out a trough right here, and that means our air masses are probably starting to originate more from up here instead of the Pacific. So this is the last week of January, and this pattern probably persists at least into the first week of February, if not longer. You got some pretty nice blocking going on up here towards Greenland. Whenever we want cold to lock in the eastern U.S., we like to see blocking pattern up here near Greenland that forces the cold to come down like this instead of out to sea like this. So pretty good signal here for some pretty cold weather, we think, at the end of January and heading into February as well. How much snow does it come with? Well, that's a tougher call. We're below average through the first half of winter. I think the winter will probably end up being a little below average as it turns out snow-wise, but I think we still have some storms left in us. We've got a lot of winter left to go. More confidence in the overall temperature regime at the end of January and into early February. It looks pretty cold. That's it for tonight's weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here Friday evening. Thanks for watching. Have a great Thursday night.